Hi, welcome back for day 2 of Marist Chess Camp. Again, I'm Mr. Morzinski. I am the chess moderator here. Today I wanted to go over some openings with you in chess and how to castle as well too. The opening that I would suggest, especially if you're starting out, is the Ruy Lopez opening. It's also known as the Spanish opening. It's probably the most popular opening in chess that you have. The first principle is what we preach at Marist is to control the center of the board. The more that you control the center of the board, the more likely you are to control the game. If you'll notice, again, there's going to be numbers on those squares. What you want to do, the squares that are to the side, the last two squares on each side, really are not squares that we want to have our pieces on, because those squares do not make it optimal for you to move them or for you to capture pieces. The more the center of the board that you have, the more likely you are to control the game, and the more likely you are to capture pieces and be able to advance your pieces as well, because then you're going to make it difficult for your opponent to move and move in a way that they cannot get captured by you. So the Ruy Lopez allows you to do that, and it allows you to kind of get that started and get those optimal pieces moving so you can get your other pieces moving to safe spots. So if you are deciding, if you're starting and you're going to be white, the key is to control the center, as I said. The first thing you want to do is you want to move the pawn either in front of your king or in front of your queen, and you're going to move that out 2 spaces. So that's going to be your first move in the Ruy Lopez. Move the pawn out, move it out the 2 spaces that we set. The pawn can move 2 spaces for your first move. So you're going to take those 2 and move it out. Then if you're black, when you are moving, same thing. You want to take your pawn that is opposite that pawn, and you want to move that out 2 spaces. Okay. Then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your rook, which is the horse-looking piece, and you're going to move that piece out. So that way you can have your rook out. If you're black, you're going to counter that and move the opposite rook out for that piece then. So you're going to have the rook you're going to have your pawn out and your rook out at this point in time. Now when it comes to you as you're white, what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your bishop on your king side and you're going to move that bishop out then. And you're going to want to move that bishop out to about 2 spots from the edge of the board. So you can have that rook there at the center. I'm sorry, that bishop there at the center. Now, what you're going to want to do, black, you can counter with that same move, but white, when the move comes to you next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to castle. And you should have your bishop moved by now, you should have your rook moved by now, and what you can do is you can actually switch spots with your castle and your king, so that your your bishop goes 3 spots over, and your king goes 3 spots over. So your king will not be in the last spot there, but the second to last spot of that last line, and your rook will be right next to them. So your king will be backed up by 3 pawns. It'll be back there, and it'll have the bishop protecting it as well too. That's what castling is. Now, it's important, and this has happened to us many times. You're going to have your king essentially locked into this spot. So you have your bishop here protecting it, and your rook protecting it, and you're going to have 3 pawns in front of it. So if you decide to move your castle for whatever reason, and your opponent moves their castle down, you're in checkmate, because your king cannot move anywhere. The pawns are blocking it, and the castle is right there. It can't go anywhere. It's important that of those 3 pawns it is in front of, you move the center one out 1 spot or 2 spots, because that way your king can escape if that scenario happens. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for a checkmate then. So that's the opening that I would suggest doing to try out. To get that pawn, then your bishop, then your pawn, then your horse, then your bishop, and then castle. And castle right away to make sure you put your king in a spot where it's going to be as safe as possible. I will be back for day 3, in which we'll talk about different defenses that we have in chess.